Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I am coming at you with another Wargaming and miniature video. In this video, we're going to continue on with my Battle Group World War II project. I'm currently working on the foam tiles that I'm going to use with the grass. But this right here is a base because I'm actually making the battlefield using this and a combination of that. So the pink is going to be on the bottom, and then this blue is actually going to be on the top. The blue is going to be the hills and the raised causeway. So when I cut this down as a hill and it's laying on the pink will basically be the low ground and the blue will be the high ground. Now I've decided to do that instead of using a blanket or a battle map or something like that, cloth mat or something under the hills, which is my initial plan was to do that. But I decided, because I'm a glutton for punishment, I'm going to actually texture the low ground, and I'm also going to add some water effects to the low ground, because the low ground is actually supposed to be a flooded area between two raised areas with a causeway in the middle. And so I've decided that I'm gonna actually create a river that runs through, and I'll put that in. I'll mold that into the pink, and then I will also texture the low ground between the two high grounds. Now the reason why I'm doing the full 4x6 with pink is so that everything will be elevated to the proper height. So when I put the blue down back over here, it'll be the same height as the blue ground that I put over there, which is going to be the same height as the causeway through the middle. So what I did last night and today was I bought two 4x8 sheets of 1/2 inch thick XPS, right? I thought I was going to do two layers of pink, right? But that would only give me a 1/2 inch elevation change, and at 15 millimeters, that's not even the height of a soldier, because a soldier mounted on a base, mounted on his personal base, stands over 15 millimeters tall, right? And 15 millimeters is more than 0.5 inches, which for those of you that know, 0.5 inches is a 50 cal or 50 caliber, and a 50 cal is 12.7 inches or 12.7 millimeters. So it's not worth 2 layers of pink. And since I already had purchased these 1 inch thick foam boards initially that I was going to use with the cloth mat, I said, why don't I just use them with these pink mats? It'll make everything it'll make it about 1.5 inch thick per tile. But that's okay, because with the two tiles layered together, it's going to give it some stiffness, more stiffness. Well, this is already super stiff, right? So it's going to give it some stiffness without adding any weight, because this is pretty much weightless. So I ordered two boards of 4x8, and once I realized, because that's what my plan was to double it up, And then once I realize I'm not going to double it up, that's going to leave me with a number of other 2x2s that maybe I can use generically or in addition, or modularly with other tiles in the future. So basically I'm going to just stash it on the shelf, and maybe I'll use it sometime in the future. Okay, so now you might notice, or you might not notice, over here I've got a 1x2 tile, and then I've also got an additional 1x2 tile that you can see the Pink Panther kind of peeking his head over, because I wanted to take the main. This is just insight on my part. I wanted to make this tile here the main tile, right? Because it's the causeway goes right across here on the north side of this piece right here. I mean, the south side of this north piece. So the causeway is going to go right across there, and the town is going to be right in here. The church is going to be right in here. There's kind of a Y intersection field right here, and this seems to be the main area of the battle. Now I could do a north and south and cut it, but if I was to do that, the causeway would come in right there on this tile if I slid it all the way north, and then the road would kind of cut right along there, and that would be kind of like a this split would be like splitting 90% of the road because of the angle of the road. So by putting it there, I can put that road gradually going down this way without it being split. And then this other road can just curve up this way and then off this second tile, which I plan to put right there. Okay, so if these tiles look imperfect, what I did was, and this is just a little anecdote here. Yesterday it was 17 degrees outside. I went to Home Depot to buy these sheets. I bought them. I got them to the car. A 4x8 sheet of styrofoam would not fit through the back hatch of the SUV. The back hatch has about a 3.5 inch wide gap. And because it's a mini SUV, it only had about 6 feet depth. So what I did was, because the back seats were folded down, so what I did was I brought a box knife with me, and on the scene in the parking lot, I cut this into I cut it down the center so it would be 2 feet, and then I cut it across the center so they would be 2x4s. And then I brought these 2x4s, which are basically like this. I brought these home. Now the 2x4, now because it was freezing out, my hands were freezing. I was cutting it on the parking lot floor and I was like standing on top of the foam, and I had my tape measure and my ruler and my straight edge, and I was trying to cut straight lines, but I didn't. I was in a hurry to get out of the cold, and I cut, and so some of the edges are a little less than perfect. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah. So some of the edges were less than like that. You can see that it's not perfect. It's pretty close. But again, I knew that when I got it home, I could straighten the edges out. I could tidy up any mistakes that I might have made. And that's what I tried doing today. I tried touching up the straight edges. And if I used the 4 corners there would be at least 2 perfectly straight edges. And that's what I'm trying to do here, is this inside here and this inside there and this inside there and this inside there. Those were all the 4 corners of a piece. And then I put the imperfections on the outside because who cares, right? Because first of all, the pink is not the battlefield. It will be. It'll be the low ground battlefield surface. And I needed there to be pretty flush in this 4 corners because that's where the water effects are going to go. I'm going to I'm going to have to do them individually because I'm not making this a sand table. This is not permanently going on like a 4x6 piece of MDF or something like that. These are going to be separated, carried separately, and then laid on the table and pushed together. So I needed them to be pretty even so that there wouldn't be any gaps in my water effects. Now I'll probably well, first of all, the causeway that goes across here is going to disguise this gap here. It's going to disguise that gap there. But the other ones, I don't know how much of a disguise I'm going to be able to do on those edges. Okay, now I don't know if you've ever used this type of tile before, or this insulation, but it does have a plastic protective film on it. I'm going to pull the plastic protective film off and then kind of draw on these tiles to let me know what position they go in. Because when I mount the blue onto this, I'm going to do that on my table, not on this floor. I just didn't have enough room on my table Okay, now of course I could leave this plastic on there on the bottom because I'm not going to be texturing that or anything, and it'll just give it a little extra protection. Now I'm gonna count the tiles. 1, 2, 3. I've labeled them differently now. Like I have that one labeled as main, but for the map purposes, I'm just going to call it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And so this one is obviously going to be 3. And I'm going to write it on here so that I remember that this is north, right? So, I mean, I could put a little mark there or whatever, letting me know that that's going to be north so that when I go to put the blue on top, I'll know which way is the best connection to the front. To the end, there's probably about 2 millimeters gap there. Short, it's too short, but that's okay because this is only an underpiece to elevate the blue to the right height. Okay, let's try that again. I can continue to label this one as the main if I wanted to, but I'm not. I'm just going to call it number 2. And that's north. All right, let me do all those and we'll move on to maybe another step. All right, so now there's going to be 6 of these blue tiles, right? I probably can get away with just using 5 of these, but we're going to see, because of the way I'm going to be cutting it. There's going to be 1 tile on the main tile that I was talking about that's not going to have any cuts on it. And then there's going to be the tile above it and below it that are just going to be split in half with no cuts on them. So we're going to ignore tiles 1, 2, and 3 because the only thing on those is going to be roads. And I'm not really concerned with roads right now. What I'm concerned about is the slope. Okay? So far, so good. So now when we go to tile 3, I'm also putting, if this tile has any rough edges, I'm making sure to put that onto the outside edge just because I don't really want to concern myself with, I don't want that to be inside. I'm going to take all the smooth cuts for the inside. So now I'm using the map that I created from Google Maps, if you remember it, and I'm taking an eyeball at how these cuts should be, and it looks like there's going to be a ridge here, and then it's going to work its way into the causeway, which is going to be the bottom half of this tile, right? But right about here, I'm going to have to do some measurements, but right about here is where the causeway actually starts, because it kind of turns this way, and then there's going to be a slope on the second tile, and then the causeway comes across and then curves up this way. So these are off center. Okay, the one in the south looks like it's exactly 1 foot in. It looks like the tile in the south starts off with a 1 foot, but now that is also the bottom of the slope, not necessarily the top of the slope. Okay, and the bottom of this tile is the bottom of the slope. So it slopes down to the actual bottom of this tile all the way across. So that won't be a problem. If 12 inches is one of my squares on my map, and the causeway is exactly 1/3 of one of those squares, it should be about 4 inches wide. All right, guys, now because the ground scale does not equate to the figure scale, I'm going to have to fudge a little bit on how I'm going to do my causeway. The causeway, I'm going to make it a 2-inch road, right? And that way a squad like this would be able to fit on the road. I would be able to use tanks, 2 tanks. These are French tanks anyway. 2 French tanks side by side would fit on a 2-inch road, making that a good 2-lane road. And I think that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to have to fudge a little bit and just say it's 2 inches. And on the map, it honestly looks like it might only be 1.5 inches, but yeah, we're going to do a 2-inch. Also on the road, I do want to be able to put hedges along the sides, maybe with some trees, not hedgerows, not bocage, but just regular hedges along the side, maybe some trees mounted in those hedges so that when I place them on the table, they won't fall off the bocage. They won't fall off the causeway. So what I plan to do is leave a 1/2 inch on each side of the road as the side foliage area, you know, a little wiggle room, if you would. And so what that means is the slope, because I don't want this road to become super dominant, even though it is really the whole reason for the battle is this road. So I want to make this road right, but I don't want it to be so gigantic that it takes up way more than it historically should on the scale of the map that I'm making. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a 6-inch, no, what am I making it? I don't even know. I can't remember. Okay, 1.5 inch and a flat 1/2 inch, then the 2-inch road, then the flat 1/2 inch, then the 1.5. So it'll be 6 inches wide. I think 6 inches, and the road isn't going to be 6 inches. It's just the up and down slope part of the causeway is going to be 6 inches wide. So what I'm doing now is I'm marking how I'm going to cut the foam. So 6 inches and 6 inches, and then 1.5 inches, and then 1.5 inches, and the rest of it I can leave the way it is because that's where the road will be. And I'm making these roads paved. There's going to be some black asphalt texture paste or black asphalt paper. I'm trying to decide if I want to use paper asphalt or if I want to just texture it with some Vallejo asphalt. And as you can see, I'm using like a pretty thick magic marker. It doesn't matter because, again, well, it does matter, but it marks easily on the foam, but it also, I'm not too concerned. First of all, it's all going to be covered, but I'm not too concerned about the accuracy of it because if I make a little squiggly line or something like that, that's perfectly fine because this is terrain, and terrain should never be perfect. All right, now it looks like there is about a 6-inch section that slopes down into the water along this top here. So what I'm going to do is this slope is going to be a little bit more shallow. It's not going to be as steep as the causeway. I'm thinking a 2-inch slope, making it a maybe a 30 degrees or whatever, 92, yeah, it should be 30 degrees, right? So looks like it doesn't start sloping till after 6 inches. So what I'm going to do is put the top of the hill here, and then 2 inches later will be the bottom. I could probably do 9. Make it even a more shallow hill. 2-inch angle. I think that'd be fine. I think that angle is going to be just fine. So we're going to do a 2-inch slope. Let me continue to mark 6 inches. Okay, and then we could take something like a straight edge. Now, I'm not going to make this hill, obviously. It's not going to be perfectly straight. But this just gives me a guideline of where to cut. So the top of the causeway is actually going to be about 3 inches wide. 2 inches for the road, and then a 1/2 inch per side, giving me some place to put foliage. Okay, so this is going to be a slope down. This is just all going to be removed. This is going to be removed, and that's why I was saying I could use maybe just 5 sheets, because I can use this little chunk of foam in another portion of the battle. We'll have to take a look how I can do that. Okay, now right that steep slope needs to turn into that. Needs to be like a little curvy area right there. Something like that. Yeah, so this steeper 1.5 inch slope is going to turn into this 2-inch slope, just like that. That's fine. And again, this is not perfect because when I cut it out, I'm going to put texture. I'm going to round it off and texture it and stuff like that. And with this blue and the way the lighting is, I don't know if you can actually see what I'm doing. So I'm going to move the camera a little bit, and there you get a little bit better picture. Putting the rough edge on the outside so that it's the outer edge of the battlefield. And this is going to fit just like so. Okay. And these boards are cut perfect, you know, so I don't have any struggle with that. And it looks like it goes in about a foot. Okay, just with a little bit of artistic license here, based on what I've seen on the map, it looks like this should be more of a gradual turn like that. Like that. Okay, a foot in, but it starts sloping here and goes down, so maybe I'm gonna do start the 2-inch here. There we go. And this is going to be tricky because of the way this is going to be curving, and it's going to have to blend directly in with this slope there. So we're going to have to figure that out when I get to blending it in. Okay, now this looks like it goes almost perfectly straight south for a foot. Almost perfectly. And then it does a pretty sizable turn over to here, kind of like that. Okay, perfect. And then the slope being approximately 2 inches. Again, it doesn't have to be perfectly accurate, you know. There we go. This is all high ground. This is going to be low ground. I'm going to cut it out, and you'll see the pink underneath. Yeah, somehow these two are gonna match. I'll have to figure that out. Because once I start cutting, then I'll be able to just basically hold the foam together and cut simultaneously, and it'll be an even cut. Okay, so that is where I'm going to cut the start of the causeway, and there's no more cutting on these boards, so let me just move these boards out of the way. So this one is going to be number 6, and number 7 I probably can use bits of foam from number 4, so that's what we're going to do. Yeah, I'm going to be able to use this for the corner on tile 7, but on tile 6, I still need a sizable chunk and a little bit of causeway. So we're going to use that. So let's go ahead and start with this tile, and then we'll get back to this extra piece here. Now we already know the causeway is 6 inches wide, right at the bottom. It's going to slope 1.5 inches up. There's going to be a 1/2 inch gap. Then there's going to be a 2 inch and a 1/2 inch gap, and then a slope down. Okay, so that's the causeway start right there. Now this causeway does turn just ever so slightly right here. I don't know if I want to worry about, I think I might have to model that. Because there's going to be a river running down here, and that river kind of goes under a bridge, obviously, and then it kind of cuts along the side here, but that's all going to be on pink, right? So I need to cut the slope of the causeway so that I can get to the pink, if that makes sense. Yeah, so I'm going to have to do that. Plus, there's a pretty sizable chunk of land beside the on the causeway beside the bridge here, between the causeway and the main elevated area. There's a sizable island basically, so I need to be able to cut that out. So we'll figure it out. All right. So at 12 inches at the top, we got the start of a slope, and then it slopes down because I want to do a gradual slope again anywhere other than the causeway. So it's going to start there. Not true. That's the river. That's the river. Okay, so it needs to slope down to that spot. So let's give it a 2 inches, and that's the slope. Okay, and this part here will actually be cut out. Duh, that's the river. Okay, so 8 to 10 right there is going to be part of that slope. And it looks like it goes pretty much like that. And then the river, is going to run along the edge of that slope. What I'm going to have to do is kind of eyeball where the road is so that I can extrapolate where everything else goes. So I'm going to put the road on here. Okay, so that's the causeway, but the road is in the middle of the causeway, 2 inches. And so and at about 8 inches into this map, the road starts to angle. So this is just the road, and it looks like it's pretty straight. It's a highway, so what do they call it? National 15. Got a little stink bug. Where'd he come from? A little stink bug. Come on, stink bug. Let's take you outside. All right, we had a little visitor. We had a little stink bug. He was wondering what I was doing over here. He came over here to check me out. And again, this doesn't have to be perfect. This is just, again, we're eyeballing it because battlefield terrain doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so now we know where the road will be. Okay, where's the bridge going to be? Okay, I'm actually thinking of using this miniature building authority bridge for, but it's got a center column that I don't like, and it's got a hump. I was hoping for a flat bridge with no center column. I think that's a good bridge to represent the Lafire Bridge. I really, because of the brick walls and the fact that it's 2 inches wide, so it's going to match up with my highway. So I think that's going to be that's a Miniature Building Authority bridge. It is supposed to end, like the bridge ends at about 12 inches, and I marked 12 inches right there. So I could probably do a little bit of an overlap, because this bridge, I don't know if it's too long. Let's take a look. Yeah, the bridge looks like it should only be about 3 or 4 inches long, and this sucker is 6 inches long. So I think I'm going to overlap the flat area here. Hold on. If I put a river in between here, like if I have the river run through it, there's only like a 3.5 inch gap between this and this. That means the sidewalls would have to be super steep, or to give myself room for a river down the middle, or I could just ignore that, because you're not going to be maneuvering under the bridge anyway. But I think I'm going to, like I said, overlap land mainly so that this will actually sit on both sides of it. But I could start the slope. At 4 inches. I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to give myself a 4-inch gap under the bridge. Wow, this video might go on a while. Okay, I'm marking the base of the bridge so that when I put it on there, I can know where I need to like start sloping it down and stuff like that. Now, alternatively, I considered using this bridge. It's a little bit smaller. It's about a 1/2 inch shorter, but it's much more narrow. It actually would fit inside of a 2-inch road, where the walls extend past the 2-inch road. I could save a little space using this bridge. Also, it's flat, and there's no center column under the bridge. So I've actually considered using this one. Bases don't go across that. Plus, it's not wide enough for the highway. Plus, it's wooden. So even though it's the right size, I just don't think it'll look good on the battlefield. Now I have this bridge, which is another. This is another bridge. It also is smaller. No. What do you call it? No center support column, but it's also just under 2 inches, so you can't really get any figures on there. It seems to be too small. It's advertised as a 10mm bridge, so it's probably too small for a 15mm game. So I think I'm just going to stick with my Miniature Building Authority building. I know where the slopes are for the river, and I know where the bridge ends. I know where the road goes. So now we just have to match the slope with the river that's going to be going underneath. So the river is going to go underneath like so. If the slope is 1.5 inches, like the causeway. There would be enough room on the pink for me to build like this little river that goes under the bridge. Now we can always make this rounded so it's not sharp like that, and it will give more yeah, so it'll be rounded to the slope down. Now this slope down should just go all the way around and then back to that slope, because this river should turn like that. So how do I want to do that? How do I want to eyeball that? Yeah, so it's just gonna that's the slope, that's the road. And that's the slope. Okay, so that's not going to be too difficult to get that slope to be rounded like that. Okay, that won't be a problem. Yeah, and on this side, this is where there's like a farm complex. On this side, yep, that works. And there's a slope going down. Perfect. So now the question is, this little island right here, it's a little extra piece there. At about 6 inches in, it should change. Okay. So approximately right there, there's like a little extra island piece. How am I going to do that? Okay. So the slope goes like that, and then it curves back around like that. So the top of this slope goes something like that, and the bottom of this slope goes something like that. Okay, I think I like that. So the road comes up here, the bridge is right here, the road continues on, the slope on the causeway goes like this, goes under the bridge, goes along the side there, allowing this river to do a turn, going that way, and then the slope on this side continues on like that. All right, are we following along? We are. Okay, good. This is also going to be, I guess, a wasted piece. It's not wasted. It's just going to be stored later for hills and things like that. So to match up with that, 8.5 would be the top of my slope, and then 10.5 would be the bottom of the slope. Okay, so that right there, if I pick it up and turn it sideways, would match with that right there. And that's all it has to match. And then we go about 6 inches in, 2-inch slope. Simple corner cut just like that. And this would all be slope. So this would be cut out and wasted. Well, not wasted, but cut out. Okay. And I think that's it. And we didn't use all the sheets. Wait a second. Oh, yeah. We used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sheets. Yep, we used 5 sheets. And I'm ready to do the cutting. All right, this is going to be the end of part 1. I'll come back with part 2 and actually start cutting this. And then maybe, progress as we go, because then I've got to put the texture down, the roads down, all, and the water texture and all that stuff. So it's going to be a multi-part adventure. All right, I look forward to progressing with this project, and I will see you in the next video.